Built on sacred ground and permanently scarred by a deadly earthquake, Napier Prison became a pressure cooker of human suffering, where executed inmates were buried standing upright, trapped forever. Are these walls recording history, or are the souls still trapped inside?
One of our lassies who was training to be a nurse, she used to just come up and do some part-time cleaning. Her name was Tracy. She was listening to her music and mopping away, and there was a guy behind her, and she says, "Mate," because she's from London. She says, "Mate, I've just done that floor, you know," and he just walked through the wall. Well, Tracy just dropped everything. She was out of there, and she's never been back.
Tēnā rā tātou, ko toro wā, ko toko ingo, no konei au, no te rohe whānui o Ngāti Kāngunu, ko toku iwi whaeti ko Ngāti Pāhauera. Engari, ka heki iho au mai ngā hapu o tēnei rohe o ahuriri, ko ngai tāwho teitahi o taku tino tipuna o konei. Heko iho ki taku tipuna ko Ropene, heki iho ki au.
Napier is a picturesque coastal city on New Zealand's North Island, renowned for its stunning coastal views and vibrant Art Deco architecture. Overlooking the town from the heights of Bluff Hill sits Napier Prison, the oldest correctional facility in the country. Operating from 1862 until 1993, its imposing stone walls harbor a dark history of executions, psychiatric confinement, and the devastating 1931 earthquake. Today, its grim past and residual energy have cemented its reputation as one of the most actively haunted locations in the Southern Hemisphere. To uncover the true stories locked within these grounds, we meet Toro and his wife Marion, the dedicated custodians who rescued the prison from abandonment and reopened its infamous iron gates.
My husband and I came here in 2002, and we initially opened it up as a backpackers. Officially started to be built in 1854, and for a price of £89, which was very little in those days. And it was officially stamped in 1862 as a prison. Between 1862 and 1878, it was an army barracks, a lunatic asylum. It used to have male and female prisoners and youngsters as young as 8 years old.
Housing everyone from vulnerable children and the mentally ill to some of New Zealand's most notorious murderers.
It was Hawke's Bay's first social services facility, so they had orphans, mentally ill people, diseased people and criminals. There was 25 people who were prisoners, and there were other people as well. These buildings here, they were brought here on the back of carts. They were buildings for the army. Prior to that, this area was part of a Māori settlement called Hukarere, and as part of that settlement, there was an area set aside for the observation of stars.
After serving as a backpackers, the site was later transformed into the historical tourist attraction.
Because of ill health, we changed it into a tourist facility because you couldn't actually mix both things. So we had to make that strange decision of cutting out one of them.
Inmates on work parole were forced to labor in the quarry below, extracting the heavy stone used to construct the prison's imposing walls.
Latterly, it was manned by Jack the Bastard Adams and his team. Inmates here that were on work parole would have to go down there and actually quarry. These rocks were placed in the walls.
The devastating 1931 Hawke's Bay earthquake violently rocked the complex, causing terrifying structural shifts for the inmates trapped inside. The massive tremors left permanent scars on the property, including deep splits in the imposing stone walls and a catastrophic rockfall in the quarry that buried several working prisoners.
It survived the 1931 earthquake. There are some splits in those areas over there, and people who were working in the quarry, there was 3 people who were covered over by rocks and boulders, but they were dug out. Apparently 1 person passed later.
Beneath the surface of Napier Prison's history lie stories of profound tragedy, including that of Roland Edwards, a man whose severe mental decline led him down a path of irreversible violence.
There is a few cases documented of him having some issues and having to spend time in the police station, and his wife would care for him in the jail cells there in Ormondville. And the first time I heard his story, I was told that he could hear the villagers coming with burning torches to burn down the house while the family were asleep. And so he would save them by taking their lives. He took a log of wood from the firebox and stunned each of them on the head so they were knocked out. And then one at a time took a butter knife that he'd sharpened and cut their throat, and then resharpened the knife and cut the next one's throat. And he went through this with his wife and several of his children. Then thought he should take his own life, which was very unsuccessful, and then he ran looking for help to several neighbours, and eventually he was found under a bridge. So he was quite mentally unwell.
Roland Edwards was buried in this very grave within the prison grounds, positioned upside down to ensure he would find no rest. The dark legacy of Napier Prison is inextricably linked to the deep wounds of New Zealand's colonial era. One of the facility's most tragic historical figures, Kiriopa Te Rau, whose path to the gallows was paved by profound injustice.
Kiriopa's story is really, really heartbreaking. It really, for me, identifies the unfortunate things we went through in our history of the horrible C word, colonialism, and the weird journey it's taken us to get to now. So this man had land, well, there was land in Opotiki, and it was a safe zone. So there's a marae on it where people could go if they were really old or unwell. It was safe. And Kiriopa had made really good connection with the locals there, and he worked as like a soldier or policeman in and out of the area assisting. Everything seemed quite good. Another gentleman called Faulkner, who was a German missionary, had realised land value at that time was really important, and he came up with this plan. He figured it all out and handed it across to the local army general, I guess, that basically mapped out how they could go in and take the land by force. So they did. They went in very late at night and hid in the forest area, and at dawn they all went in and slaughtered everybody. And in that slaughter were Kiriopa's wife and children and family members and old people, and he came back into the area from work to find out this had happened and was, as you can imagine, completely horrified and upset, and had found out that Faulkner was responsible.
Devastated by the discovery, Kiriopa sought a fierce and traditional form of justice known as utu.
It involved Faulkner being taken and hanged, and his eyeballs being pulled out, his head being held up in the church where he had preached. And it was, what in Māoridom we call utu. It's a justice, it's full-on revenge, it's extreme, but you couldn't not be that upset and extreme if your children and wife had been taken.
However, the colonial government made no allowances for his grief. Kiriopa was eventually hunted down and captured to face the harsh reality of colonial justice.
After his trial, he had been brought to the prison and he'd hidden a weapon on him, and he knew his end was coming, so he tried to take his life and had injured himself greatly. So his blood is still on his clothing, which is in kia here in our treasures.
Despite his desperate attempt to cheat the hangman, Kiriopa was kept alive to face his ultimate sentence at the prison's gallows, a grim structure built for absolute certainty.
It's got 2 drop floors, so just in case it doesn't work the first time, we'll pop you down the second time. And everybody's watching, and they've paid to be there. And then, like, for Roland's, it's being advertised in the local rag for days. So we ran out of tickets because we sold so many tickets that people are climbing all of the trees to see over. That must have been frightening and horrific.
For over a century, the injustice of Kiriopa's execution remained a deep, unhealed wound for his descendants. But today, New Zealand is finally taking steps to confront this dark colonial legacy.
Because of Treaty of Waitangi, where we have to make amends, and Opotiki region get to start reclaiming their land and telling the stories that happened, the government realised they really probably should apologise for the death of this man, so they write a really lovely letter and pardon him. So they hanged him in about 1872 and then pardoned him in like 2014. Just sorry about it. Yeah, bit of a mistake.
While Napier Prison's history is heavily overshadowed by tragic miscarriages of justice, its walls also housed some truly eccentric characters. One of the most peculiar was an inmate named Basil.
He'd been in on most likely fraud charges. The man himself had had some physical disfigurement from burning, and his moustache was ginger and then black where the burn marks were. And I don't know if it was his age or they just felt sorry for him, but he was allowed to bring one of his many, many cats in with him and had stayed with him till he, I guess, passed of, shall we say, natural causes in prison. And so this cat turns up so many years later, 2002, and this cat has a ginger and black moustache as well. She goes to the cell to sleep or sit at, well, that's Basil's cell. And so she became called Basil. When the backpackers were there, she was very well fed and cared for. And when our staff were working there, you'd talk to Basil every day. She was a fan of sausage rolls.
Well, I gave her the name Marjorie. I just thought that suited her because she was very regal. But after a while, we used to get inmates coming up here and saying, "Is that damn cat still here?" And I was like, "Okay, when were you in?" And they would say, like late 60s, early 70s, 80s.
The regal feline had roamed the cell blocks for decades, and it seems her attachment to the prison didn't end with her passing.
A few months back, I had a grandmother and the grandchild who came for a tour. They were like, "Oh, we saw Basil and he played around with Basil." I was like, "Basil is not here anymore. Basil passed away some time back." They were like, "No, you're kidding me." I was like, "No." Then I was like, I showed a picture of the cat. They were like, "This is the exact cat we saw and we played around with it."
You could be working away in the corridors and making beds or cleaning or doing whatever when it was the backpackers. And then you'd hear clump, clump, clump of real heavy footing, and you'd turn around and it was Basil.
That cat followed my wife, like protected, like feeling like someone looking after her.
Beyond phantom footsteps and spectral guardians, the everyday reality of Napier Prison was steeped in criminal ingenuity. The inmates were masters of deception, orchestrating bold schemes that allowed their illicit activities to continue right under the guards' noses.
There was lots of things that happened in the prison here. Like the top dog had a key pressed into the old Lifebuoy soap. There was people who used to go out and perform robberies and all sorts by using that same key. They'd go out for that 1 hour a day, and their prospects or friends would be lurking in the bushes, and they would feed them down KFC and all that in the solitary confinement area. They would also get drug-injected mandarins. They'd have tennis balls that had been slightly slit open, and they were filled with dry goods.
They never used to have toilets in the cell. Then plumbers came and put a new toilet. But prisoners found out that this whole place is wooden, not a concrete wall. They can move things around and make a hole on the wall and come out. Because of it just comes out to the garden, They can climb through the fence and go to KFC, movies, and come back. Some person told me he used to be here. There's some rules for them. They can go out, they can't drink outside.
One guy was given the task of some sort of nefarious act, and he decided to take himself off to what was then the provincial hotel. And he went in there and he got acquainted with a lady who proceeded to sit on his knee, and they were canoodling and all sorts of things. Unbeknownst to him, his wife had been informed by a friend that her husband, who should have been tucked up in jail, was sitting in the pub with somebody else on his knee. And of course she went in, spotted the situation, reversed out and dialed the police, who came and arrested his ass. So that was another story.
The haunting stories of Napier Prison aren't entirely relegated to its colonial past. Even after the facility transitioned from a punishing institution to a somewhat eccentric modern-day attraction, a heavy, unsettling energy lingered. The transition was far from straightforward, and the building seemed to resist its new life, maintaining a firm grip on its troubled history. Managing the site presented a unique set of challenges as the weight of the prison's past continued to impact everything from the building's atmosphere to the behavior of the visitors.
That was my routine every day at the prison, is announce myself in Māori and in English. Come on, it's time to get up, we've got to get going. Routine guys, let's have a good day. Or if it was really yucky weather, because you had a lot more trouble, a lot more weird stuff happen on a cold, nasty day, because it's horrible in there. So we're like, I'm really sorry guys, it's going to rain, and then we'll stop the rain and you'll be fine, just a bit of huddle. Because for me it made sense to try and be familiar, to try and have some empathy for whatever's there, because I needed it or they to work with me, not against me, and not on to the people I was bringing in as visitors.
We're ordinary human beings, and that no airs and graces, and I think that's what makes us acceptable to maybe the entities that are left here, because it's the tattoos and all the rest of it. I'm not saying that tattoos are bad, because I quite like them, but the fact that a lot of the inmates here were here solely because they were dyslexic. And because of that, they couldn't read and write enough to get their theory for driving. So they took it upon themselves to just get in the car and drive and go to work to provide for their family and whatever it is. And it's a sad indictment in education these days that had to happen.
A lot of them would have had developmental stages where they stopped mentally at maybe 8 to 12 years of age. That's when their influences went wrong. And so they were young men with a child's mind. So you've got to think, you're probably still like that on the other side. You may know the difference between what was right and wrong, but you're a bit confused. So I just tried to be empathetic, because I thought if it was me in the same situation, I'd want that. I'd want someone to try and care.
Not every soul trapped behind the walls of Napier Prison was a hardened criminal. Some were simply vulnerable kids who slipped through the cracks of a rigid system. Cell 2 holds one of the darkest and most tragic echoes in the entire compound, the story of Wayne.
There was no place for him in a junior facility, so he was brought in here, and he was a huffer. So he used to sniff solvents, glue and all that sort of thing. He was only 16. He was put in cell number 2, and after a few days, he just decided to check out. He proceeded to take some rough bits of his sheeting and tie it and hang himself in that cell. And he's written a little epitaph. It's in red, and it says Wayne in hell, and then it's got F-A space Q-U-E.
All right, so please. Opening this part of the prison would be the creepiest thing that I have to do. Cell 12 and cell 10. 2 days back, even I had visitors who were claiming like when they entered this room, they got a lot of scratch marks on their back, and they were showing me all the scratch marks and how bad they felt in these rooms. A mother and a child was here. They were doing the historical tour, not even the ghost tour, and they were able to see a man and a woman in a cell. And then they actually came back, returned the devices because they did not want to continue with the tour.
One of our lassies who was training to be a nurse, she used to just come up and do some part-time cleaning. Her name was Tracy. She was listening to her music and mopping away, and there was a guy behind, maybe about, 20, 30 paces behind her. And she says, "Mate," because she's from London, she says, "Mate, I've just done that floor, And he just walked through the wall. Well, Tracy just dropped everything. She was out of there, and she's never been back.
When it was a backpackers, people would come here all excited, we'd give them the room, and in half an hour, they'd disappear. They wouldn't even ask for their money back, they're just gone, So they must have experienced something, seen something, I don't know.
We call this infirmary, the room behind me. I moved into that room by myself. One night, around midnight, I saw a person, the dress made up with grass or sort of leaf sort of material, and he had a green stone, bald head, beard. We had eye contact for like more than 5 seconds. We were looking at each other, and there's an earthquake happened same night. I was at the edge of the bed, so I lost balance, fallen from the bed. He disappeared. I went back to sleep.
Brushing off such an intense encounter and simply going back to sleep takes a remarkable amount of nerve. But any hope that the apparition was just an isolated incident would quickly vanish as darkness fell once again.
Next day, I saw the same guy around same time at night. Next morning, I mentioned to our staff, "Yeah, I saw someone. I don't know who was that. Well, he was in my room last night." One of staff member had contact to a person that communicate with spirit or ghosts. He suddenly came, and when I was not in the room, he started drawing a picture. First thing I noticed, that necklace had that beard, a trimmed beard, wasn't a long one, wasn't a clear face. But his face, I remember, it was like a long face. He just told me he wasn't a prisoner. He's been in that place for more than 300 years. Then he died in this place, so he's sort of stuck. He doesn't complain about that can't leave because he's sort of happy. Then I asked him, am I disturbing him anyway? He said, "Nah, apparently you just don't disturb him, you're on the talking stick." I said, "What?" The phone. Oh, yeah, because he didn't know what to call for the cell phones, because there was no cell phones 300 years. I thought, "Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, then if he's happy, I don't have any issues, someone living in my room." My bed used to be here up to like here. So the guy I saw was here. Pretty sure this thing was there that time. He was sitting at the back there. Yeah, I lived here for some time, yeah.
Also remember us having a lass in that detox room over there. And we had 4 sets of bunk beds, and you know how strong those steel bunk beds are. Well, the bottom bunk it was as if it was fluid, and it was banging against the wall, and the person on the top bunk was not moving. And this was a lass called Lisa from Canada, and she had a face floating. She said it was like a round Maori face floating above her, sort of talking to her, not in a good place. That's why we stopped using that detox as a dorm, because it just, people didn't feel safe.
It wasn't just the staff sharing the prison with its spectral residents. Nalendra's wife also had her own unnerving encounters, frequently plagued by the sounds of phantom children echoing through the empty corridors, even in broad daylight.
My wife experienced things. She always hear kids tap into metal plates or sort of metal cups and metal plate and run in the corridor. That's one common thing she always shared. "Oh, I hear those kids." Sometimes she'll sleep in daytime in the room. She can hear those kids again.
It was last year winter. I had a group from South Island. They were finishing the tour. It was around 4:45. I was able to hear like two women whispering to each other in a very loud way, but it was not clear what they were speaking. So I thought, oh, it might be those two ladies who are at the hanging yard. But so I came from the women's wing to check on them, but they were silently just sitting and listening to the audio devices. So I thought it might be in my mind. So I shut down the entire prison, and when I came back, we locked the door, we stepped out, all of a sudden loud thuds and knocks started going inside from the prison. From both the ways of the corridors, you can hear footsteps and people banging on the walls very, very loud. They got really afraid, including me as well.
Embracing its chilling reputation, Napier Prison frequently hosted special public events, including immersive scare tours. Late one evening, Marion and her friend Michelle stayed back in the main office to help manage the event.
Everyone had gone through past the hanging yard, and of course we're sitting in the office looking at the computer. It was just out of the blue that it was like 2,000 sparklers, you know, like real phosphorescent white light lit up. And I was looking up at the camera and I went, oh, look, there's somebody walking across the courtyard, this woman dressed in sort of old-fashioned gear. I said, it's one of them blooming actors, they're just having a laugh. So I went, you know, like out to have them on. Nobody there. And that's a lady in that office area in old-fashioned clothing who just doesn't want to move on.
I've seen a person. I don't remember the face because he never looked at me. He was just walking past. Right after him, I just checked the hanging yard, nothing there. That same person, multiple people have seen. I believe that was Roland Edward, the last guy that got hanged here.
Meet the paranormal researchers, a fearless team of investigators uncovering what hides in the shadows. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for chilling video evidence and follow our social media for behind-the-scenes updates. Ready to cross over? Unearth the truth if you dare.
The paranormal researchers team was granted the extraordinary opportunity to investigate the dark, storied halls of Napier Prison. While the rest of the group prepared for the main arrival, Ian made the decision to head down a few days early. Taking the rare chance to spend that time completely alone, immersed in the suffocating silence of the prison's dark, haunting corridors. During those days, Ian dedicated his time to exploring the labyrinthine layout of the facility, ultimately choosing to sleep in the specific cells that were widely warned to be the most active. He recalls the experience with a lingering sense of unease, stating, "It was a strange feeling going to bed each night, not knowing what to expect to happen." It served as a brutal confirmation of just how unforgivingly cold and isolating the environment must have been for the prisoners who were once confined there. When Barbara arrived, the atmosphere shifted from solitary exploration to focused intensity. The team set up their gear, ensuring every piece of monitoring equipment was calibrated and ready. As the last of the lights were switched off, the prison plunged into total darkness, signaling the start of what would be a long and busy weekend of investigation. With the facility finally plunged into silence, the team took those first quiet moments to conduct a final walkthrough, refamiliarizing themselves with the layout and soaking in the heavy atmosphere of the cell blocks. Moving through the shadowed corridors, they decided to officially begin the investigation just outside Cell 2, the site where a prisoner once took his own life.
Who's here with us, please?
The team set up a laser grid to detect any shadows moving through the dark corridor. Places like this always have ambient noise.
Second noise I've heard from there.
Sometimes it's just the wind, other times it's banging doors.
Kind of obscures my vision a little bit.
We have to eliminate those natural sounds to find real evidence of the paranormal.
Did you know we're sleeping here tonight again?
Where should we not sleep tonight?
Oh.
We're going to give whatever is here one last opportunity to make a sound before we move to a different area. We are now inside cell 24, renowned for being the most active area in the entire maximum security block. Ian actually slept here twice during his time alone in the prison, and tonight, it's Barbara's room. Usually, it's rare not to have a ton of activity on the spirit box in a spot like this, but tonight we didn't get a lot. Our final stop is the Pound, the prison's grim, solitary confinement area. Almost immediately, we felt a violent vibration surging from beneath the floorboards, shaking the entire room. Barbara used an EMF meter to test for magnetic anomalies and measure the physical vibrations.
67.
We noticed an old shower stall on the right. It had an energy that made everyone refuse to step inside. Ian decided to stand right in front of it. He threw out a joke to one of our guests, expecting a laugh, but instead he felt a sharp blow to his shin. When he looked down, the guest wasn't even close. She was already near the doorway. Sensing an active presence, Barbara moved in to investigate the shower stall. The investigation pressed on until 4 in the morning, when the exhausted team finally decided to call it a night and get some well-deserved sleep. The true work of any investigation begins long after the lights go out. Back at the studio, it means committing to the painstaking process of reviewing hours upon hours of media. But during our deep dive review of the Napier Prison investigation, the footage revealed some things that we couldn't explain. We're going to hold back our own opinions on these unexplained sounds because we don't want to influence what you hear. We want to know what you think. Drop the evidence number along with your theory in the comments below. Evidence reference 1.
Oh, what did you hear?
Evidence reference 2.
You remember us the last time? You remember us the last time?
Evidence reference 3.
It's working. Okay. Because I'm getting completely none. It's working.
Evidence reference 4.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Did someone just say yeah?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
Evidence reference 5.
It was a dream and you just said something strange. It was a dream and you just said something strange.
Evidence reference 6.
Tell me what you did to get chucked into the cell. Tell me what you did to get chucked into the cell.
Evidence reference 7.
Oh, yeah.
Which one's drinking?
Oh, yeah.
Which one's drinking?
Evidence reference 8.
I was like, Mum, what? They're like, Like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, like, oh my God.
And then we captured something unusual, a movement on camera. Evidence reference 9. Keep an eye on that audio recorder on the floor. It seems to be moving on its own. The corridor creates a wind tunnel effect, so it's strong enough to knock over the wall hangings. However, the audio recorders are pressed right against the wall, so they should be shielded from the worst of it. If they pick up any interference at all, it'll be minimal. It's strange because we actually saw this happen during a previous visit to this prison.
There's something at your foot.
An audio recorder on the floor seemed to move on its own.
There's something at your foot.
Ian saw it in the corner of his eye that time.
Everyone was related to someone who had been in here. One guy, Gary Gerbies, I remember when we first opened here, Gary saying that this was the best years of his life. And he was showing his grandchildren.
It took me some time to get used to it, but now I'm actually used to it, so I believe I respect them and they respect me back.
It is grim, it is dark tourism, and we are really happy that we are the caretakers of this facility, and super happy as well that it's just got Heritage 1 status.
My wife and I were staying there, and sometimes the TV would go on, and then you go to the toilet and you come back and the channel will change, you know, and you think, oh, what the hell's going on here? Sometimes the lights would go on, you know, you could be asleep in the bedroom and next minute the light will go on. Maybe a reminder to let you know that, yeah, they're around, and there are people who, well, have passed on. Maybe they don't actually realise they've passed on. There's still, something's still going on, the energies, the residual energy still in the place.
I like it the way it is. I would not like it any other way. I feel like there's a mutual respect, I would say, and that I'm totally comfortable. I can walk around here at 2 in the morning and don't feel threatened or anything. It's only when you actually go out the gates that I feel more in harm's way than I actually do in here. Plus we had Uncle Johnny Hohepa, who was a Maori kaumatua, who actually blessed it for my husband and I when we first came here. And he said that as long as we're here, everything will be fine.